everybody. It's me again, Chrissy from Knitting in the Heights. This is a podcast about living in New York City and some yarny goodness. So today I'm just going to catch you up a little bit. I will be showing some videos of my trip out to the Cloisters, which is one of the Met Museums here in New York City. It's in Washington Heights. It's actually located pretty far north, and you can get there taking I think the 1 train, the A train, or the M4, which is what I took off of Broadway. So I just want to catch you up on some of my knitting, and then you'll see some really great video of my trip to the Cloisters today. So I have become fairly monogamous now that I've learned that my daughter will basically fit into the Gaudi I started over a year ago, and because I really want to get this done. So let me catch you up and show you how far I've come. So I finished the color work. It was over a week ago, about a week ago now. And so here we are. This is the front. Okay. So here we are. And it's looking fabulous. I have put the armhole stitches actually on on those barber cord things, which are great. They're, the only problem is they're pretty long. So I had to I knotted them together. So here we are. So I have less than an inch before I do the bottom color work. And then after the bottom color work, then I go into the rib, if I remember right. So it's not that much far off, and it really is looking beautiful. So the yarn I'm using is, so 2 colors that I've had in deep stash for quite a while. This one is Araucania Huasco. Yeah, which is pure extra fine merino wool, hand painted in Peru. And it's a tonal colorway. It's color number 118. One thing that I am noticing about this, it is kind of pooling in a little tiny bit. You can't see it very well here. It's kind of got this, like, I don't know, it's like a grayer tint to it at times. So it's pulling a little bit. It's not bugging me. It's like almost like a charcoal overlay on top of the blue. So that is for real in the color. It's not just like uneven stitches or anything like that. So the color work is done in Madeline Tosh sock in the colorway Gausia, and it used quite a bit actually. Here is the skein now, and so that'll be used to do color work at the bottom as well as on the sleeves. There's a color work band around the sleeves. My plan is actually to add length to the ribbing on the sleeves, quite a bit of length actually, so that I can do thumb holes. My daughter has always wanted a sweater with thumb holes. She keeps asking for it. And so I have been doing a little bit of research into how I can create those thumb holes. So I found this really cool website that actually takes you through how to do that. And so it's like these hacks basically for various things you can do to sweaters, like easy hacks. And one of them is basically making thumb holes. And from my understanding is basically you stop. You figure out where you want your thumb hole, and then you knit back and forth instead of in the round for like 1.5 inches, and then you continue the rest of your ribbing, and then you cast it off. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to having that done. I think at this stage, I had sat down and made some serious knitting plans, and of course they've already changed because that's life. But I'm hoping to kind of finish the sweater up sometime mid-September. So if I can do that, that would be a really great place for me to be as far as like what I want to make for gifts and things like that. I am kind of, I'm the kind of person I'm very type A in that when it comes to like knitting plans and things like that, I will make absolute plans to see how much I can actually finish. But I also know I don't want this to feel like a job, and I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So trying to take some of the pressure off while still having plans, that's kind of hard to do. Then the second thing I wanted to talk about, that I've decided to knit, I was totally not going to do it. But Mr. Stephen West, he had to decide to do something I have yarn in stash for. golly. So the Twists and Turns Mystery Make Along or Knit Along, which is happening starting October 6th. I am definitely on board for that. And I will show the yarn that I'm choosing to make this with. So I already had some yarn in stash that I was going to make a shawl for one of my best friends named Liz. So I had 2 skeins of These Days, which is a kind of a light gray with pops of kind of this yellowy green, like a chartreusey green. And then I also have Come On Eileen, which I have 1 skein of that. That was going to be the pop. And so I was going to have those 2 skeins and then have a second color with the 3rd skein from Come On Eileen. Well, I also have in stash 2 skeins of a Homespun House in ash. And ash is a very dark, almost black, kind of the darkest charcoal gray you can imagine. And I have 2 skeins of that, and I'm like, oh my god, that would actually make an epic shawl. So the plan is, instead of making the other shawl I was planning, which stays in my favorites, but comes out of my queue, I am now going to use those colors to make the Twists and Turns. So I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting. I really hope I get it done because I have an epic track record with these mystery knit-alongs of not completing or even getting through Clue 1. So last year I was just as excited as I am this year. I was like watching all the other podcasters get all their yarn, and I was like trying to figure it out and trying to pull as much from stash as possible. In fact, I only last year I only needed 1 skein that was not in my stash. But then we made it kind of fun, too, where I could find that 3rd skein out and about in the wild. This year, I just don't want to spend any money on this other than the pattern. I don't mind buying a new cable needle. That's cool, because I think the cable needles I've had forever. And I don't even know if I can find the one that would work with this needle size. So maybe it's time for me to get a different cabling needle. That'd be kind of cool. If that's all I buy, might as well, besides the pattern. The pattern's not that expensive. So I've already bought the pattern. It's already queued up in my projects. And so basically, I just need to find the ash. I'm pretty sure I've already pulled out the other 3 skeins because I put them in a project bag recently to get ready to make the other shawl. Because I like to kit things up well in advance to get them out of the stash area. So my apartment's super small. At some point when I clean and organize and finish, I have to donate a bunch of stuff. I could show you how small it is, but when I say small, think dorm room small, because I live in Manhattan with a small child. It's a 1-bedroom, but we share a bedroom. And the only good side, it's about 500, between 500 and 600 square feet. The only good side is that I have more space than any of my other neighbors because I live on the basement level in the front of one of those old kind of like multi-story townhouses, row houses. The building I think was built in like the 1870s. It's actually a historic row of houses that was from, if I remember right, built by John Audubon's family, who was the naturalist painter, who's actually buried only a few blocks away from me in Trinity Churchyard. So there's 2 Trinity churches. There's one uptown and one downtown. And the one one uptown is the one that's only a few blocks from me. So, so there's like underneath the staircase for the outside stairs, because I have my own separate entrance, there is like storage space. It's not heated at all. So in the winter, it's super, super gross. Also being a basement apartment, when the wind blows a certain way, like sideways, which we do get that here in New York City, rain comes underneath the door there. I mean, it's what it is. It's fine. But anyhow, I safely have my yarn stored actually all the way to the back of that wall up against concrete. So, I mean, it doesn't get too hot. It doesn't get too cold. Mostly the only issue, it's basically closed. Most of it's closed up into like plastic bins. But yeah, it can stay in there and it's fine. But if I need to access it, because there's a lot of stuff in front of it, I need to like have some notice because I have to literally move everything out and move everything back in. The joys of living in Manhattan. Anyhow, so yeah, so the other places I kind of store my stuff. I have a very deep window ledge because it's an older building, and I keep like basically Gabriel. I'm looking at it right now. It's right next to my bed. Gabriel keeps all of his like stuffy toys in that nook, as well as I keep my project bags, and I have a binder that has like pockets where I keep like most of my needles and my notions. But basically all my project bags are just kind of thrown higgledy-piggledy into that like area, and the rest of the windows on top. I mean, I don't have a lot of shelves, so it's the best way, and I don't have a lot. I mean, New York City apartments are notorious for not having storage. The closet behind me, that tiny closet, and it's a tiny closet, is the only closet in this entire apartment for 2 people. So, yeah, and I think, like, for kitchen storage, I have basically 1, 2, like a double cabinet above the sink, a single cabinet, and then 2 very small cabinets above, and then there's, like, one very small cabinet, like, on top of my very small refrigerator, which I put, like, more like some of my personal documents that I have to keep stored, and like any extra medicines and things like that. So yeah, this is not like, you have to be like aware of like space and how much you have in New York City. So that also comes to the whole why I don't want to buy more yarn, besides like the fact that it costs money and we're all trying to save money these days. I'm actually trying to knit down my stash. I'm really going through this period where I have beautiful yarn. I have really beautiful yarn, much of which I haven't seen in like, I mean, maybe over a year. Because I try to go through my stash about at least once a year, right? To just check and see what's there, make sure it all looks okay. But it's just kind of sitting in these bins in the deepest, darkest regions of my apartment. And so looking at my stash, and not everything's in my stash in Ravelry, but even just looking at my stash on Ravelry, I have a lot of yarn and I should be using it. Like, I think I was recently going on Meetup to see if I can find any local knitting groups for me to join. And there's plenty of those, but one of the questions one of them asked was, how big is your stash really? And I thought about it, and I could probably knit from stash pretty much exclusively with like the leftovers I have from things as well. So I don't want to like waste anything. And I've given a lot away to my friend Josh. Just to be clear, like, I haven't even kept all the stuff that I have. I could probably knit from stash for 4 to 5 years easily. And there have been times in my life where that's been useful because when I went through my divorce with my last ex-husband and I moved to New York City, I didn't have money for yarn, but I didn't want to stop knitting. So, it was just better for me to, in general, not plan on yarn purchases and knit from the stash I already have. So I know how useful it can be to have like a really well-stocked stash, but I also know how joyful it is to actually go through and knit the beautiful yarn that you have already purchased, such as in a sweater like this. Again, the stash for this, if I look at, I didn't put this stuff into Ravelry probably until recently. So, but I know my daughter, she picked it out when she was maybe 5. I think I probably got it on sale at my local yarn store. But yeah, she picked this out when she was like 5, maybe. She was 5. Yeah, she was probably between 5 and 6. So just knowing that, you know, now she's 12 and I'm knitting something beautiful for her, that just makes my heart happy. So anyway, so that's what I've been working on. The plan in between the sweater, as long as this gets done, and the mystery knit along, because that doesn't start till October 6th, is to work on the Botanic Shawl by Stephen West. I'm doing it as a knit along with one of my best friends, Josh, as well as in the Piece for Piece crafting group. I'm also doing the knit along there, and I figured out who it's going to. It's actually going to go to my dad's girlfriend as her Christmas present. So that's one of the reasons I do want to get it done, as this is also for my daughter's Christmas present. Other couple knitting updates. So the really fancy schmancy colorwork gloves that I was going to make, or mittens I was going to make for somebody I really cared about, well, that person is no longer in my life. So Being a single woman in New York City is fun. Let's just put it that way. Dating has been not great in New York. Anyhow, so I've decided to make something completely different for someone who I do really love. So Gabriel, my son, absolutely adores penguins. And I found the cutest color work hat that I want to make him out of this. And if I could, because I don't want to even make him a sweater. And it's one of those hats that I think he could have for a couple years, as long as, like, I'm very aware of, I don't think he should take it to school. Let's just put it that way. I don't think it's a hat I want him to wear at school. It's a hat I want him to have when he's with me. He can wear hats to school. That would be great. But he will lose this hat. I just know it. I know it in my soul. I've had a younger child who's done the same thing. Actually, she traded a hand knit hat. Now, I will say she traded it for another hand knit hat. Okay, that's fine. But that hand knit hat, it was a sock head in this beautiful rainbow yarn. She really, really wanted a hat in. She traded it with one of her best friends, whose mom is also a knitter. Now, that other hat did not use as nice yarn. Bless. Was not fingering weight. So, anyhow, it's fine. I miss that hat. It was a really pretty hat. But, it's whatebe. She just wanted to trade with her friend. It's cool, whatever. But anyhow, I don't want him to lose it. And that's the key, because he would probably lose it. So it has a Latvian braid. I've never done that before. I've done color work before. That's cool. But I want to make sure that whatever hat that I make this child, it will stay with him for a while. So, so I plan on casting that on later as well. And then I've decided on DK socks for him and my dad. I have fingering weight yarn for my dad, and leftovers. So my dad and my sister are huge Green Bay Packer fans, which is interesting because my dad grew up in New York, so he's not a Giants fan. He's totally Green Bay Packer fan. But I got him yarn, and I got my sister yarn too. And last year I made her really cool Twizzler socks out of Green Bay Packer sock yarn. Sorry. So I have leftovers, but it's slightly different than the one my dad has. So the one my dad has is simply like the green and gold, like that Packer green, that Packer gold. But my sister's has it's speckled with those colors on a white base. And so my thought is to use my sister's held double, the leftovers from hers held double as like socks and toes on both socks, and that way and maybe even cuffs. I have to think about it a little bit, because I think she had her socks only took just like 55 grams or something. So if I can do heel socks and toes out of that, then I have plenty of yarn to hold his double to make DK weight socks, because I needed to be quick. So I found a couple patterns for that I'm looking at. And then my son is also going to get DK weight socks for Christmas, holding a bunch of minis double. So it'll be super fun. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. Sorry for the burps. I just downed New York Slice for lunch on my way back from the museum. So I hope you enjoy some of these really pretty videos from the Cloisters Museum. Again, it's in the northern part of Manhattan, and you can take the M4. So if you're visiting New York City, one thing to know is the subways and buses are actually easier, and it can be intimidating. I remember when I moved here. But one thing that is great is on Apple Maps as well as Google Maps. If you hit the transit, it will tell you exactly where to go for the buses. And I know that at least on Apple Maps, because I tend to use that more often, with the buses, it actually tells you when they're coming, like how long you'll need to wait if they're delayed and all of that. They're pretty easy. You don't have to carry cash with you for them if you're visiting. If you get like a 3-day card and you're visiting New York City, you can use that for the buses as well. So you can use subway cards on the city buses. You can also just swipe both for subway and for the buses. You can swipe they have like one of those credit card things. It's called the Omni. And you can use that for your rides. I have a monthly pass, and so it's unlimited for me. So I just get on a bus or get on a subway wherever I want to go. Anyhow, I hope you have a great day. See you later. Bye.